Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to Inside the News on WINNFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Today is Saturday, November 6th, 2021. It's just 4 minutes past the hour of 11 here in our studios. And joining us today for an exclusive interview is Dr. Terence Drew of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. He is one of the runners in the leadership race that will take place in late November, I think November 28 to be exact, when delegates of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party will be choosing or voting for a new national leader. Don't forget to join us for the second half. We will be having Mr. Conris Maynard, who is also one of the runners in the race for late November. Also, let me apologize for the absence of Dr. Jeffrey Hanley. He is also one of the runners in the race for the leadership of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. He did express that he would not be doing any interviews at this point in time, but we hope to have him on sometime in the near future. Dr. Drew, good morning, and thank you so much for accepting the invitation here at WINNFM to be interviewed on your candidacy in the leadership race for the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party that will take place on November 28th. That is just in the coming weeks. I'm so happy that you have joined us here, and I look forward to a very fruitful and meaningful discussion. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Let me say to you, Cornelius, thank you for your invitation, and I want to say thank you for inviting all of us, the nominees, in the question of leadership. I want to say, of course, and I'm happy that you apologize for my dear comrade, Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, and you would have another comrade right after me. So I say thank you on all of us, and I think they will say thank you also for themselves, and thank you on behalf of the party for giving us the opportunity to be here. But let me say good morning to you again, your technicians there, and all those who are listening to us or viewing us. Are they viewing us also?
Yes, we're also live on Facebook and YouTube.
Okay, great. So also to the viewers, welcome.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Drew. Now, I really look forward to this discussion. So let us get right into the interview this morning. Now, you're here in your capacity as a runner in the leadership race for the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party that will take place on November 28th at your annual national conference.
Yes,
What
correct.
made you answer the call to lead the Labour Party at this point in time?
Right. Thank you very much once again. And the question of answering the call is not an easy question. It's a question that I had to pray about, that I had to consult about, that I had to discuss with many, many others, seeking their counsel, their own wisdom and things, and of course, searching my own self. When it comes to leadership, especially of such a great party, which is the oldest party by far in our federation, the most successful politically, the party that would have established the foundation on which our nation is now built, that has to be a big question and a serious question. And so after having done all of that, lots of praying, soul searching, consulting, sitting with comrades and others, I have reached the decision that maybe, well, not maybe, this is the time when I should put myself forward. Remember carefully that I came onto the platform of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party in 2013. Of all the other candidates, I've been on the platform the longest. And so I had the opportunity of time and experience to view things, to analyze things, but to also learn and learn a lot when it comes to questions of leadership, politics, our country, our party's history, and so forth. And in that vein, I want to really thank our present leader, the Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, who would have made a lot of that possible. And so once I would have done those evaluations, looking that the party is now moving forward and upward, noticing that the party is in opposition, and one would ask, do you have the appeal really to build a base or a broad-based appeal that would allow others to come into the party and give you the opportunity to be successful at the polls so that the party can be put in leadership for service? Do you have the understanding? Do you have the gravitas, the knowledge, the political experience, the exposure? And when I sum up a lot of these things, I would have gathered a lot of this over the years. And I would say this was not a fly-by-night type of thing. For these qualities would have taken time, not of myself to develop, but would have needed many others to help me to develop these. And so when I look at this situation and look at what is required at this time, I can say that I have developed myself and I am now in a position where I can answer such a serious call, which is to carry the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party forward.
Now, Dr. Drew, you have been involved in politics, or you have been on the political, in the political room for a very long time. You stated that you have been very active with the Labour Party since 2013, leading up to the 2015 election. And I can say that you have garnered some support or support from that time until now. Give 3 reasons as to why delegates should choose you for this election.
Right. And let's look at it. I think that I have brought forward a vision that is clear for our party and for the comrades of our party, not just the delegates, but the comrades on a whole. I've also brought forward a vision to the country which would allow us to broaden our base, broaden the appeal of the party, and give the party the best chance of winning. And so the vision that I outlined. The other thing is my broad-based appeal. And the third thing is my competence. Now, I can go through each one separately. For example, when it comes to my vision, as I've stated in my official statement, that our party is built on a number of principles. These principles, of course, are transparency, openness, and democracy is at the root of our party. And our motto says exactly what our party is about. It is about for the good that we can do. And so the vision includes making sure that we have a party headquarters that would be modernized, also making sure that within each constituency there's a headquarters from which the candidate and the comrades within each constituency can work from. And so we also want to have what I would call the bottom-up approach, so that the comrades throughout St. Kitts and Nevis, and even the diaspora, working from the ground level, can have a say in the direction, can have a say with respect to the direction of the party. And I think that is very, very important to strengthen the democratic processes within the party. But the other thing I really looking forward to is that the party should become an institution, almost like a university, where the comrades can come in, and anybody else who want to learn, and they can learn about our party. They can build themselves by acquiring skills, not only for the function of the party, but skills they can use in nation building, skills they can use for their own advancement and nourishment and so forth. So the party becomes almost like a university, an institute, so that comrades can see themselves going from childhood all the way through the spectrum of their life, the party having a space and a place for them. So they're not only asked to give, but they themselves in turn can be nourished by the party. So it's a symbiotic type of relationship where they give to the party gives to them, and in that way, we can build a stronger party. And so we gives us the best chance to be elected so that we can implement our vision overall, which is for the best, for the good that we can do. And so this, in a sense, encapsulate where I see the comrades, how I think they should participate in the processes of the party, how we can modernize the party so that the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party can become the hip party, the party to be a part of, the party that everybody is proud of. So that when a comrade goes out and say, I'm a member of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, in any sphere, that would resonate as being part of a progressive, democratic, wholesome type of organization which is geared towards nation building on the principle for the good that we can do. With respect to appeal,
Sure.
Just want to mention that if you look at the last election, my constituency, my team and I worked tremendously hard, and I want to give a shout out to my team at this time and want to thank them very much because I cannot do it alone. And we work very hard to make sure that we had the opportunity to increase our appeal and increase the number of votes. We turn around the situation in the constituency by hundreds of votes. One, even though we had difficulty canvassing because of the state of emergency, and we can discuss that some more. Two, having maybe less than 1/10 of the financial resources that the other side had, not being able to canvass as we wish. With all of these restrictions, we were still able to convert hundreds of votes. So it means, therefore, that our candidacy in constituency number 8, our team in number 8, would have devised a plan, implement a plan that resulted in a broad-based appeal. That is important. If Labour is to win at the next election, Labour must be able to have a broad-based appeal, and I have demonstrated that with such a large number of persons coming over to our side in constituency number 8. And lastly, when it comes to competence, I want to just say very quickly that a lot of the skills that I have developed, I had the opportunity under the leadership of Dr. Douglas to have that exposure. He and I would have traveled together over the years. I would have been on very high-level meetings, such as the IMF, embassies and so forth, countries, leaders of business, commerce, and having the opportunity to learn to the point where it was accepted that I could have taken on my own trip to Germany and demonstrate my competence in dealing with persons who are considered leaders of the world. And so I want to say that I bring these things and more, but it is clear, not through words, but by evidence that I have implemented and worked a lot of these things, and now I'm ready to take this with my team to the national level.
Dr. Zhu, as you mentioned your candidacy in constituency number 8, where, of course, you thanked those people that supported you and list some of the challenges that you faced during that election. Many argue, or some argue, that you're not currently a member of parliament and believe that it somewhat disqualifies you to be the next leader of the Labour Party. What is your response to that?
Well, I would say that that question in St. Kitts and Nevis is a question that would have been brought up from time to time. But let's take a look at the political history of St. Kitts and Nevis. For example, during the 1960s to 1970s, Dr. Kennedy Simmons, who is now our only living national hero, was the leader of PAM then and was not in the parliament. And eventually he won in a special election, which history many would dispute, but he was declared the winner. In 1980, he became the premier. In 1983, he became the first prime minister, and he served for 15 years. And when he lost in 1995, he continued as the leader of PAM. That is on that side. Even within the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, with our previous comrade leader, Sir Llewellyn Moore, he too led the party from outside of Parliament. We have it even on the case with Lindsey Grant, who led the party outside of Parliament. And we see now in Nevis, where Dr. Daniel has been elected as the leader of the NRP, and she has not participated in any election up to date. So with respect to the political history of St. Kitts and Nevis, we have come to recognize that parties do not choose their leader just based on whether or not you are in Parliament, but they choose their leader based on who they see fit at that particular time to take the party forward. So I am just a link in a long chain of this type of tradition. So surely political history and our own political climate, that does not disqualify me from becoming leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party.
Thank you, Dr. Juno. After listening to some people and going through social media, many people at home and abroad are of the opinion, they say that you are fit and ready for leadership. Are you surprised by this support?
Right. Let me first say that I thank those who are openly and those who are even not openly expressing their support for my candidacy. The support has been tremendous. The outpouring of endorsements that has also been tremendous, and so I want to be thankful for that. With respect to being surprised, of course, it is to some extent a pleasant surprise when you see certain persons who would do it. But then when I reflect, I do recognize that there's something called the canvas strategy, where you work and you toil. And people would have seen me working and toiling and doing what I had to do in order to get to the level where I am at. There are those who, of course, participated with me, those who helped me along the way. And I want to quickly say that I have a lot more to learn, but I think they are comfortable to know that I have learned a lot, that I am competent, that I am, have my mind in the right place and centered on the people. And I think that with that is partly responsible for the many endorsements that I'm getting. So I want to say some of the endorsements are surprising, pleasantly surprising, and I want to be thankful for those who have endorsed me and for those who will endorse me.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dr. Ju, while you have been receiving support from the general public, Kittitians and divisions near and far, in this leadership race, it will only be delegates of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. What has the response from the delegates and people within your constituency been like about you running?
Well, that is a good question again. And I would say that I did not just throw myself forward. People came to me and people were speaking to me for a long time. And I said that I would make that decision after, of course, praying, consulting, digging deep, introspection and so forth, before I would have reached a decision like that. And just during this nomination process, I was first nominated by a constituency that is not my constituency. And so it shows, therefore, that there's broad-based appeal even within our party. And then I went to my own constituency, and I said to them that they would have approached me and asked me to put my name up. But I told them that we needed a general branch meeting, and I needed to put reasons forward and to allow the comrades to question me as to whether I should go forward. And they asked me, they asked me questions, and I allow even those who were dissenting voices to be in that room because I believe in the democratic process. How I operate, if I'm in a room and everybody is in agreement, I start to get nervous and frightened. It means, therefore, that room is not performing how it should because everybody cannot agree. Everybody must not agree.
Right.
You cannot move a democracy forward if everyone is singing the exact same tune. We can have the same principles, but the how we should have robust discussion. And so there was broad-based appeal, and there is broad-based appeal as others from other constituencies are, they are reaching out to me, and I'm reaching out to the people to really sell my vision for the party, to explain to them why I, as the leader, will give them the best chance of getting back into leadership so that we can serve the people. And that has been tremendous, and I continue to press forward. And I want to, at this point, ask the comrades who are delegates to please vote for me on November 28, 2021 at our leadership conference.
Now, Dr. Drew, there are three runners in the race. Yourself, Dr. Terence Drew, Mr. Conrad Maynard, and the Honorable Dr. Jeffrey Hanley.
Yes.
But we know there can only be one winner. There can only be one national leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. What happens if you do not win this race?
Well, let me say about winning, that the Labour Party will be the big winner. And that's a big plus for me, irrespective of everything else. The Labour Party would have demonstrated that over 90 years it is a robust party, it is a strong party, and it can withstand a democratic process like this. Now, there is a specific vote, and I want to say that we are putting things in place to ensure that this is carried out properly. I want to say that I, of course, appreciate and love my comrades and brothers, Dr. Jeffrey Hanley and Mr. Conrad Maynard. And once we go through this process, my support, my commitment is always to the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party and those who are elected to be the leaders of the party. That I will not compromise. That I will not compromise. We are a party of rules, regulations that follow the democratic process. And these things are in place, and that is my commitment to my party.
Thank you so much, Dr. Drew. It is 24 minutes past the hour of 11, and this is Inside the News on WINNFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. We have about 65 people viewing us on the Facebook. We have 15 on YouTube. We are also live from our website at www.winmediaskn.com. Let me just use this opportunity to thank all of you for tuning in. We'll take a short commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation right here on WINNFM 98.9. For those of you who are just tuning in, you are listening to Dr. Terence Drew of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, and he is one of the runners in the leadership race that will take place at the party's annual national conference on Sunday, November 28, 2021. Let's take this quick break, and we will be right back.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Win FM 98.9 keeps you connected even when you're on the go. Join the Win FM WhatsApp messenger service. Our WhatsApp number is
662-2204.
Be a Win FM iReporter. Send us your photos, videos, news tips, or even news items for consideration. Remember the number
662-2204.
Found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
Protect yourself from the novel coronavirus. Wash your hands thoroughly and frequently for at least 20 seconds each time. Avoid shaking hands and touching your face with unclean hands. If you have to cough or sneeze, do so into your flexed elbow or a paper towel and then dispose of it. Keep a distance of 3 feet away from anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. Boost your immune system with vitamins, drink plenty of water, and get adequate rest. Visit your doctor, the nearest hospital, or health center if you or a family member becomes ill. A message from the Ministry of Health and the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go round.
It's 11:29 here on WINNFM 98.9, and we're coming back. We have on the panel today Dr. Terence Drew of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, and he, again, yes, is one of the runners in the leadership race that will take place in late November of this year. Dr. Drew, I just want to say I wish you the very best, and I hope that you will be able to pull over some of the delegates to support you in the upcoming internal party elections. Now, we're continuing this conversation. Now, we're looking at the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party that, as it is now, has lost 2 consecutive elections in 2015 and recently in 2020. With Dr. Terence Drew at the helm of the Labour Party, what will you do to ensure that the Labour Party is successful at the next general election?
Thank you again. That's an excellent question. But let me set the record straight on what took place in 2015 and 2020. We see that there were very extraneous things that would have taken place. For example, in 2015, the party was denied its opportunity to have its overseas vote, while the other side would have enjoyed that pleasure and privilege. And we suffered as a result of that. And then in 2020, once again, we saw all the political shenanigans that would have taken place. The most worst of all was the inability to go door to door to meet the voter. And that is why in the June 25th edition of the New York Times, it was mentioned that democracy was under threat in Latin America and the Caribbean. And the New York Times, which is a well-respected publication in the United States of America, directly, clearly, succinctly mentioned St. Kitts and Nevis when it came to the Caribbean. Our name is mentioned. So those elections were held under very strange circumstances, which never happened before, and as a result, the Labour Party was disadvantaged. And you all know, or the viewers know, about the cases that I would have brought against the government, and we know about the machinations taking place in the court that is really denying me justice. But nonetheless, what do I think I can bring? One, I think I can bring that broad-based appeal. Because once again, my constituency was lost in 2010 while Labour was still popular and Labour was in office, and I took it over in a lost position. I have positioned that constituency in a better position than I met it, which means, therefore, I had been a positive force for good on the Labour team for that constituency. This type of appeal is what is needed to win a general elections. Whoever is the leader of any party, he or she must have the ability to bring people off the political fence and from the other side to join with your base to create a movement that would allow you to be successful at the polls. I think my broad-based appeal really would help the Labour Party tremendously. And the polls that were done and have been done and still being done showed that Dr. Juro, I am leading in those polls and give the Labour Party the best opportunity. That's one. Secondly, in terms of the financing of the constituencies, that we concentrate on restructuring some of the financial arrangements, and that will make sure, help to make sure that the resources that are needed on the ground in the various constituencies would be there and allow the constituencies to be successful at the polls. And the other issue is to make sure that our candidates are trained as political operatives, trained as candidates, which will give them the tools necessary to make sure that they can do the political work to become successful. We will also make sure that we reorganize, not just at the national level, but at the grassroots level, because the grassroots is where all the political activity would be generated in order for the party to win. And so we will have a bottom-up type of approach, which will empower our people at the constituency level, which will give the party the best chance of winning. And having a clear national vision, which I had already started to outline during the last campaign and since the last campaign, which will be based on principles of democracy, openness, transparency, competence, innovation. These things are what we'll be based on, and of course, following our party motto for the good that we can do. And so when I have the opportunity with my team to lay out the vision that we have for St. Kitts and Nevis, that will be built on trust, competence, and having people at the center, I think that, of course, would have a tremendous impact, positive impact on the people to move towards Labour. And those things, among others, are what I would bring to ensure that the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party can be successful and would be successful. And the other thing is to challenge the present government for all that is being done and to make sure that the electoral office gets cleaned up. I want the supervisor of election to know and to put him on notice that the office will be challenged every step of the way. Because for us to preserve our democracy, that office must be open and it must be transparent. And it must not be just transparency in words, but it must also be perceived to be transparent, just, and fair. And so I think that those things would put us in a very good position to win the next elections and put our party back in service leadership to take care of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Dr. Joe, if I can add in here quickly, how difficult or how possible do you think that would be to get things in place that you think are wrong at the electoral office?
Right. So I think that it will be a challenge. I don't doubt that. But I have shown already that I'm ready to take on any challenge. I'm ready to go to court if I perceive things are unjust, things are wrong. I have done that before, and I will do that again. And so therefore, I would have my team look at what is taking place in the electoral office, and I will challenge the supervisor of elections, and I will challenge the government. The list, for example, our people must be able to look at the list. Our scrutineers, to some extent, don't have as much access as they used to have. That is a serious problem. They must have that type of access. We know that during the last election, names were taken off the list without having proper hearings. We know also what took place in constituency number 2, number 8, and throughout this country of ours, St. Kitts and Nevis. And therefore, that must not be done here. We must have access to the electoral office as the government has. It must be open, it must be transparent. And so I think there's room for it. I will highlight it. I will demonstrate if I have to, and look for room where I can take that office to court if it has to be taken to court. Because this is not just an issue of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. This is really the foundation of our democracy. One man, one vote. That is sacred, and that must be not only protected by the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, but it must be protected by all of us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And they might be challenging, I agree. Cornelius, I am up to it. I am up to it to make sure that right be done and wrong be corrected.
Now, as we've mentioned, no, you're in the leadership race, and if you win, you become the national leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. And at the next general elections, if the Labour Party wins that election, you most likely would become Prime Minister.
Yes.
What is one thing you think the Federation needs right now, or something that you will deliver for the people if you become Prime Minister?
Right. At this point in time, as you look at it, I think there are a number of things that are important. And I will develop, I have my national strategy and vision, and I would let you into a little bit of it. One of the things that we really have to press on is the good governance issue. That is quite important. Why? Because even in my own party, as chairman of the party, we brought forward what is called the Code of Ethical Conduct. I think that is important to rid the country of as much corruption, nepotism, and so forth. These things are hampering our development. The other thing that we need to do is the economy. It has to be open. People need to have equal access to advance themselves, equal access to financing, equal access to opportunities, where they can grow, where they can flourish. A democracy must promise these things in order to be a vibrant democracy. As Lincoln said in his Gettysburg Address after the Civil War in the United States, every man must have the opportunity to pursue his happiness. By opening up the economy, making it more transparent, giving people real opportunities, I think that would have a tremendous impact on the lives of people on St. Kitts. But in terms of tangible things, there is no doubt that the healthcare system would become the envy of the Caribbean and beyond, because I have traveled extensively, I have consulted extensively with persons here in the region and abroad, as far as Europe, the United States, and so forth, because our healthcare system is really, really in shambles at this point in time. It lacks the leadership. The Honorable Akila Nisbet is not up to it, and it has been demonstrated during the COVID-19 situation. Those things, having new facilities, access to proper health care, those things will be things that will be delivered. The youth must have a say at the table where they can express themselves. But the youth must not only be just almost like what one youth said to me. Sometimes we are treated as accessories, like a handbag. Oh, youth involved, bring the handbag. Cannot be that. The youth must have a meaningful seat at the table. And later on, I will explain in more specifics exactly how that will be done. And when it comes to the economy, people must have equal opportunity to economic advancement, and people must not be selected based on other things except their competence, willingness to work hard. And as Martin Luther King said, that a man must be judged by the content of his character. And when you give people those opportunities, they flourish. To wrap up the point, it is said if you get rid of as much corruption from any country, the economy just grow naturally, just because you have less corruption. And therefore, we have to drive that issue. And then the other issue is to bring our people together. Unity failed in bringing the people together. Unity failed in the good governance agenda. Unity failed in opening up the economy and making more transparent and open. Unity failed in having less corruption. As a matter of fact, there is much more corrupt, and what they accuse labor of, they have done that and much, much, much more. And therefore, we must make sure that what the petition and division, what they're asking for, is that we must deliver. And I am committed to deliver it. And I think that the people of St. Kitts on a whole understands the people understand Dr. Drew. And in understanding me, they know that if I am committed to a particular cause, I will stand up for the cause respectfully, but I will stand up for it. That is what I will also bring to the seat of the prime ministership, making this country about the people, for the people, of the people as it is.
Thank you so much, Dr. Drew. It is 11:42. We'll take a break to acknowledge the sponsors for this program. And when we come back, we'll continue inside the news here on WINFM 98.9. For those of you who are just tuning in, we have Dr. Terence Drew of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, and he is one of the runners in the leadership race that will take place on Sunday, November 28, 2021, at the party's annual national conference. Also in the race is Mr. Conris Maynard, the former parliamentary representative for St. Christopher number 3 and current member of parliament for St. Christopher number 1, the Honorable Dr. Jeffrey Hanley. I'm Devon Cornelius. We'll take this short break and we will be right back.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9 Win FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
This is WinFM 98.9, and I'm your host for today's edition of Inside the News, Devon Cornelius. Today is Saturday, November 6th, 2021, and we have on the panel today Dr. Terence Drew, who is actually the current chairman of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, but he is in the race to become the next leader of the 89-year-old political movement. The current leader is the Honorable Dr. Denzel Llewellyn Douglas, and he recently announced that he will not be going up for leadership of the party. Dr. Douglas, I think, served for 30 plus years as the leader of the party and 20 years as Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, and he has decided to take a back seat at this time. And stepping forward are three young men of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, Dr. Terence Drew, Mr. Conris Maynard, and Dr. Jeffrey Hanley. Welcome back to Inside the News. So we have just about 14 minutes left, Dr. Drew, so we're going to see how best we can use this 14 minutes. Now, there's a question that I want to ask you, of course, in relation to leadership of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. Now, how will you effectively lead the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, or how would you effectively run the affairs of the party whilst not being a member of parliament? And how will you have or represent the people if you're not a member of parliament? Can you speak to that?
Right. So in the first instance, I will say that I cannot do all of this alone.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we must understand. There's a team that will be put together to make sure that the affairs of the country, of the party, the affairs are run effectively and in order. And that is why we are having this leadership conference as well, because it's not just about the leader of the party. We are making some fundamental changes to the party, such as having 2 deputies who would have their own portfolio, and we'll also have a chairperson and 3 vice chairs. And so we are expanding in that the number of persons at the leadership level. So this is not a one-person thing at all. This is Dr. Drew working with a competent team, a team that would have also been elected by the comrades or the delegates of the conference to be held on the 28th of November. So I just wanted to put that firstly forward. The affairs of the party and the parliament are 2 separate things. There are 2 separate things. As a matter of fact, our party has scope where the leader of our party does not even have to be a candidate. And that is because at any given moment, the party can decide who can be the best political leader to make the best political argument, and they have the best political debate and create the best program to give the party the best chance at winning. The parliament is where you go and you debate and you make laws. Even our representative there, they meet with the party to discuss how they will make their presentation to go through. So it's a team that even supports the parliamentarians at any given time. So the affairs of the party are not run from the parliament. As a matter of fact, the party dictates a lot of the political agenda, how we are represented in parliament, make sure parliamentarians are prepared, and it has scope to even have a leader who is not even a candidate. That is how robust our party is. But with the wisdom, it asks itself always who is the best person to really make that political argument or create a narrative that is so broad-based that would give the party the best chance at the polls when the candidates are presented. And who is that person who can bring the party together and have such an appeal that it can bring others from outside. I think that those are the questions that will be put before the comrades, and I think that they would answer. I know they would answer that question correctly. But I want to reiterate that the affairs of any political party is apart and separate to the parliament, which is a different question. However, our parliamentarians who are part of our party, they are expected to carry the party's agenda to parliament, which is really to represent the people and to do the good that we can do.
Dr. Drew, as you mentioned that with regards to the leader not having to be a candidate, how do you think people would respond to something like that if it is to happen in the future?
Well, it depends. That would be something that would be new, but it depends. At this time, we see in Nevis that the Nevis Reformation Party has a leader, and that leader, no official declaration as a candidate has been made. As yet, I show that will be done, but it is in progress right now within our federation. And the people in the NRP looked at their political situation and thought that that was the best. So each party, based on the present situation, will make that decision as who they think best to chart the course for their party to get back at the leadership level.
But just for point of correction, though, Dr. Daniel Hodge, she has been officially declared as the candidate.
Well, yeah, correct.
But
yes.
not as a member of parliament.
Not as a member of parliament. Exactly.
Okay,
right.
so
and
sure, go ahead.
Right, and you really become a candidate further on nomination day.
Right.
And she has not experienced that as yet.
That is very, very true. That is very, very true.
Yes.
Dr. Drew, we have about 9 minutes left, and so we're going to play with this 9 minutes
Yes.
left until we wrap up for the headline news at 12.
Yes.
Now, the biggest debate that I'm seeing on Facebook is that Dr. Drew does not have a seat, or Dr. Drew has not won his seat. And many people, some people see that as you not being able to lead the Labour Party. If I may jump in here, I think it does not necessarily mean that because one does not have a parliamentary seat that they are incapable of leading.
And I gave you 4 solid examples. Our first national hero, our first prime minister.
Right.
I mean, we don't even have to look outside of St. Kitts and Nevis for a solid example of that. Right.
And we've also seen it across the region where
Yes.
people have led political parties, but they, at that time, were not a member of parliament. Now, the question that I wanted to ask, now,
For example, even
sure.
our first national hero, the Right Honorable Bradshaw, he led a party, and it's only in 1952 when he had adult suffrage that they were able to present themselves up, and then he became a parliamentarian during that time. So even his own example is an example of leading an organization, a movement, and not yet being in parliament. So we don't have to look too far. And both sides of the party, and even in Nevis at this present example, that is part of our political history. And I think that if people understand our political history, they will recognize that this is not something extraordinary that is taking place. This has always taken place. And therefore, based on our history, this is not an anomaly.
So if you become the leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, you will be the national leader of the party, but of course not leader of the opposition in the National Assembly. How would that work out, where you will be the leader of the Labour Party, but Dr. Douglas will remain as the leader of the opposition? How would that work out in terms of having the concerns of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, or in particular the Labour supporters, heard through the Parliament?
Well, as I tell you before, and I've said, as I told you before, and I've said, that the parliamentarians, they carry the voice of the party. And so whoever the parliamentarian is, they will carry that voice to Parliament in the process of passing laws. So that is not a problem at all. And so we don't see that as an issue. And this is not new. This has happened multiple times. This is part of our culture. And then the question of carrying, of course, the broader political message for our party, that the leader will carry from using different fora and so forth to make sure that the message gets out. And so that is not a major problem.
And do you think people will be able to make that differentiation in terms of, because Dr. Douglas is now stepping back as the national leader of the Labour Party, but he's continuing as the leader of the opposition. Do you think there will be something not being clear from people in St. Kitts and Nevis generally, because they'll be looking at you as the leader of the Labour Party, but the former leader of the Labour Party still as the opposition leader?
Right. So the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, they have dealt with this before.
Right.
Especially, as I told you before, since in the 70s, during Limo's time, commonly, and even during recently when Sean was in the parliament and Lindsay was the political leader of the People's Action Movement, when Heiliger was in the parliament and Dr. Simmons was the political leader of PAM, because there are two different questions to answer. So our political history, it's in our DNA to understand it. And as I'm giving the history here presently, I know a lot of people who are listening are saying, oh, yes, that is true. Yes, I remember now. And so once they draw on that history, they will understand that this is not an anomaly, but really would have happened multiple times during our political discourse.
Now, Dr. Drew, for some people, national conferences are something new to them. Perhaps they've never attended a party conference before.
Right.
They don't know the whole voting process. They don't know if it's just yourself, Dr. Hanley, and Mr. Maynard going up. What about the other positions, treasurer, secretary, PRO? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, we have a number of other positions, such as I told you, there are two deputy leaders. We would normally have one, but this year in this leadership conference, we'll have two. So we'll have a national leader. That is why I keep saying this is not my effort alone. This is an organization that is restructuring for modern times so that the leader is working with a competent team so that together they can move forward. And then we'll also have a chair and 3 vice chairs. Usually we used to have the chair and 1 vice chair. This time we're having 3 vice chairs, which means we are expanding the leadership of our party. And those positions will also be voted on. With respect to the secretary, we have a position called National Secretary / CEO. That one would be appointed by the leader of the party. That position would be. Then we have, so that is right. And then we have the floor members who would also be elected. So we have a number of positions to be elected. It's just that the leader of the party is a question at this time, and that is generating the big question, and that is generating a lot of the questions and traffic and interest in the Labour Party. But you know, in all of this, Cornelius, and to your viewers also, you know what is, and listeners, you know what is beautiful about this is that this is putting the 90-year-old, and we are possibly the oldest party in the Caribbean. It's very possible. I'm doing my research. Yeah, I'm looking at Cuba, the Communist Party of Cuba, to see how old it is. It might be that one. But we are up there in terms of years. And so people can see a robust party, a party that has been around for many years. We are not around many years just because we are around. It is because of our constitution, our democratic processes, the way we are structured, the way we are functioned, that keep us, these things keep us relevant and keep us strong. That is why I say this leadership race will not break the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. It will make us stronger and it will make us better because that is who we are as Labour. We have the foundation and we'll keep it together.
Dr. Drew, this is the end of the interview here on WINNFM 98.9. It was a very good discussion, and I would just want to say I wish you the very best in the leadership race. I think it's safe to say it's going to be a tight one, based on the campaigns that I've seen from each person in the race. And everybody's saying that they're going to vote for Drew. Everybody's saying that they're going to vote for Maynard. Everybody's saying they're going to vote for Hanley. But at the end of the day, we know that there can only be one national leader. So I wish you the very best, and I hope that you would be able to get the delegates of the party on your side.
Okay. Yes, I want to say something.
Go ahead.
So as I wrap up in these last 2 minutes, I want to say thank you, and thank you to WIN-FM as well. But I want to say to the comrades of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party and to the delegates that your party is strong. And I want you to hold strain, as our comrade leader is dubbed to have said to Southwell when he was departing this earth, to hold strain, to stay strong. Your party is strong. We are strong together. I want you to know that I have the deepest respect for our comrade leader, whose legacy I keep speaking about and will continue to speak about, because he deserves to be put down in history in a proper way, the way that he deserved to be. I want to say to my comrade Conress and my comrade Jeffrey that we are comrades, and we have that camaraderie holds us together, that we are not selfish people, but we really want to see the party move forward. And to those who might be trying to divide the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, I want to say to you that 90 years, these are not 90 days. We are strong and robust, and it will not work. And lastly, to say to all of our comrades, I ask you to vote for me, the delegates of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, on the 28th of November, 2021. Forward with Dr. Drew. Thank you very much.
That was Dr. Terence Drew, the current chairman of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, and he is making his bid to become the next national leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. He's the current chairman of the party and candidate for constituency number 8. This is WINNFM 98.9. Stay tuned. We're coming back with Mr. Conress Maynard for the second hour, and you'll not be hearing my voice. It will be that of my co-worker, Kevin Brown, as I will be heading off to a funeral in Nevis of a family friend. And so I want to thank you again so much, Dr. Drew, and I wish you the very best. Stay tuned to WIN-FM. Stay tuned to WIN-FM.
Would have lost their loved one.
Yes, thank you so much. Stay tuned to WIN-FM 98.9. We'll pause for the news, and we'll have Mr. Maynard on next.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM. You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name. A smooth blend with perfect balance and richness. It's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
With the Win Headline News, I am Kevon Brown.
And I'm Devon Cornelius.
Making the headlines.
Youth Impact 12 awardee credits former boss for her success.
National Assembly sits next week. 3 bills seek second reading. Newly elected political leader of the National Democratic Congress in Grenada, Dixon Mitchell, calls for decentralized health care. Internationally, after a day-long standoff, U.S. Democrats set aside divisions to pass a $1.2 trillion package of highway, broadband, and other infrastructure improvements, sending it to President Biden to sign into law. Now, the details.
Another recipient of the Youth Impact 12 Awards is expressing gratitude to the Department of Youth on Nevis for the recognition in this year's cohort of awardees. Jasolesi Grant Flanders, in an interview with Win on Friday, November 5th, described the Youth Impact 12 Awards as a space that reminds young people that they can do it. She said this is an awesome initiative and it's beautiful. I would like to thank the Department of Youth for bringing this space for us. Grant Flanders took the time to credit Hughie Sargent, former director of Nevis Television NTV, where she currently works, for the role he played in her personal and professional life. She said, I would like to thank Hughie Sargent because he played a major part in me finding myself as a designer and dealing with graphics and production work, and my parents and friends who have rooted for me endlessly. Grant Flanders was awarded in the area of youth in entrepreneurship. The Youth Impact 12 Awards ceremony was held on Thursday, November 4th, 2021 at the Michael Harold Sutton Auditorium of the Nevis Performing Arts Centre under the theme Champions of Youth Work. The Youth Impact 12 Awards is an award where the Department of Youth recognizes outstanding young people from the ages of 18 to 30 for their outstanding contributions in various categories.
The National Assembly will sit on Wednesday, November 10th at the National Assembly Chambers Government Headquarters, Bastille. The sitting will begin at 10 a.m. Prime Minister the Honourable Dr. Timothy Harris will seek to have the second reading of the Drug Prevention and Abatement of Misuse and Abuse of Drugs Amendment Act 2021, which was first read on September 30th, 2021. The Honourable Wendy Phipps, Minister of International Trade, Industry, Commerce, Consumer Affairs and Labour, will seek to have read for the second time the Bureau of Standards Bill 2021, first read on August 5th, 2021. Lastly, the Honourable Lindsay Grant, Minister of Tourism, Transport and Ports, will seek to have read the second time the Vehicles and Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2021, first read on September 30th, 2021. In regional news, newly elected political leader of the National Democratic Congress in Grenada, Dixon Mitchell, calls for decentralized health care. Grenada Broadcasting Network has that report.
How could we be comfortable if the general perception is that the hospital is a morgue and that you're lucky if you come out? And accept that. How could we live with that?
Deacon Mitchell, NDC's political leader, says the process of change and transformation begins with a collective responsibility to demand and insist on better health care.
We cannot be sending people to the general hospital, the main hospital, the sole hospital, for a cut on the hand or for a bus head.
Decentralizing the health system by upgrading all the medical centers into polyclinics, which operate 24 hours a day, is the suggestion from NDC's leader.
I think Chain had a song called The Police Station Closed a couple years ago. Well, health centers closed. We need to ensure that we put resources into the community. I grew up in Peter Esperance. There was a doctor's house that the doctor lived in. And so you had access to a doctor because the average person couldn't afford doctor bills. That was the doctor. We need to go back to community healthcare. And if we do that, and if we decentralize our community healthcare, and if our population is healthy, then the pressures that we are placing on our sole, perhaps historically outdated hospital would be lessened. That's one.
Noting the challenges that already exist, Mitchell says it also starts with encouraging Canadians to be healthy, be active, exercise, and eat properly. Leveraging St. George's University to improve the lives of Canadians is another option from NDC's political leader.
The former NDC administration was well on its way to having a teaching hospital. It has been shelved. It begs the question, why? Why would you do that? We have an opportunity to transform Grenada, in my view, with state-of-the-art healthcare that will feed immediately into things like our tourism industry, because we will be able to sell that as part of your tourist product, right? We have hundreds, if not thousands, of alumni who graduated from St. George's University. What do we do with that information? What do we do with that data? Even from a tourism point of view, we should be leveraging that. From a health perspective, we should be leveraging that so that they can come back and give back to the small island that they got education from.
Mitchell finds it preposterous that healthcare is not given focus to the point of obsession, highlighting the simple solutions available.
The question is, why can't we build a state-of-the-art, equip, furnish, and train, and pay, because that is crucial, pay and reward our healthcare providers, practitioners, nurses, doctors, appropriately, given that you have $30 million leaving Grenada for healthcare.
Deacon reminds government that the average Grenadian cannot travel to another country to seek medical care. I am Gerard Joseph for GBN News.
We now bring you these international reports.
On this vote, the yeas are 228 and the nays are 206. The motion is adopted.
U.S. House Democrats passed a $1 trillion infrastructure bill late on Friday, ending a day-long standoff over a key pillar of U.S. President Joe Biden's domestic agenda. The 228 to 206 vote is a substantial triumph for Biden's Democrats, who were eager to close out a painful week of political losses with a major legislative win. The bill is expected to be the biggest upgrade of America's roads, bridges, and airports in a generation. But Democrats still have a long way to go on a sweeping $1.75 trillion social policy and climate change bill, which cleared a procedural vote in the House early on Saturday. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had hoped to pass both bills on Friday, but a vote on the social spending bill was ground to a halt after centrist Democrats said they wanted to see a nonpartisan cost estimate for it first.
Some members want more clarification or validation of numbers that have been put forth, that it's top line, that it is fully paid for.
After hours of closed-door meetings, a group of centrists promised to vote for the bill by November 20th, as long as the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office finds that its costs line up with White House estimates. Biden had canceled a trip to Delaware on Friday night as he tried to resolve bickering between Democrats. In a statement after Friday's vote, Biden wrote, quote, "Generations from now, people will look back and know that this is when America won the economic competition for the 21st century." Biden's proposed social spending legislation would represent the largest expansion of social programs since the 1960s.
At least 8 people have died and scores of people have been hurt in Houston, Texas, after a crowd surged on the opening night of a music festival. 11 people were taken to hospital in cardiac arrest, while some 300 people were treated for injuries such as cuts and bruises at the event. With more, here's David Campanale.
The incident happened very quickly, according to local police, as concert-goers at the event pressed forwards. The award-winning rap singer Travis Scott was on the stage as the crush happened and repeatedly stopped performing as emergency officials attended to the injured.
The crowd began to compress towards the front of the stage, okay? And that caused some panic, and it started causing some injuries. People began to fall out, become unconscious, and it created additional panic.
Organizers halted the event when it was apparent that many people had been hurt. But officials said the sheer scale of the casualties quickly overwhelmed the existing medical facilities. It's not yet clear what caused the crush to start. Travis Scott's Astroworld Festival began in 2018 and it's become a huge draw. Earlier on Friday, hundreds of people had rushed the event's perimeter, knocking down metal detectors and a security screening area to get into the concert. But following the incident, the second and final day of the festival has been cancelled. A reunification centre has been set up at a hotel nearby for people who've not heard from family members at the festival. A local county judge described what had happened as an extremely tragic night.
Tonight's focus, though, needs to be on the families and on the lives that we lost, many of them extremely young, tragically young.
The concert organisers are now working with Houston's police to establish the facts of what happened. David Campanale, BBC News.
You were listening to the WINNFM Headline News on 98.9. Our top stories were:
Youth Impact 12 awardee credits a former boss for her success.
National Assembly sits next week. 3 bills seek second reading. Newly elected political leader of the National Democratic Congress in Grenada, Dixon Mitchell, calls for decentralized health care. Internationally, after a day-long standoff, U.S. Democrats set aside divisions to pass a $1.2 trillion package of highway, broadband, and other infrastructure improvements, sending it to President Biden to sign into law. Thank you for listening.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs. And make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, DeLeo Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With over a century of perfection behind the Magasin name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness. It's no wonder Magasin Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoy the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Magasin. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
People make the world go
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Good afternoon, and welcome back to Inside the News here on WINNFM 98.9.
People make the world go
I am your host for this afternoon's session of Inside the News, Kevon Brown, filling in for the incomparable Devon Cornelius. During the first hour, you heard Devon and Dr. Terence Drew, one of the candidates for the upcoming annual conference for the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, for party leader Dr. Terence Drew. Yes, you heard a very rowdy and full discussion from Devon and Dr. Terence Drew. This afternoon we should be joined by another candidate, Conress Maynard, who will be fielding questions similar to what was fielded for Dr. Drew on his candidacy for the leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. as we await him, if there's any callers who might want to call in and weigh in on what they heard this morning, we will welcome those calls until he gets situated.
To avoid getting the coronavirus, remember to wash your hands thoroughly and frequently before and after preparing food, after using the toilet or changing a diaper for a baby, sick person, or the elderly, after blowing your nose, and after leaving large gatherings or moving away from persons who appear ill. Encourage others to wash their hands and also use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer of 60 to 70% solution. Stay away from events having large gatherings of people. You can expose yourself to more possible infections in large groups. Also, avoid sharing cutlery, cups, glassware, etc. with others. Viruses can linger on these items and may be transferred this way. Avoid shaking and holding hands, and hugging or keeping an infected person in close proximity. This is a message from the Ministry of Health and the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA.
People make the world go
Good afternoon, radio listeners, and welcome back to Inside the News. I'm your host for this afternoon, Kevon Brown, as I mentioned earlier, and we are now joined by Congress Maynard, past representative for St. Christopher III and candidate for the next leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, which will be celebrating a historic 90 years next year. Good afternoon, Congress. How are you?
A pleasant good afternoon to you, Kevon, and yes. I'm doing well. And a pleasant good afternoon to your listening public at home and abroad.
All right. So we'll jump right into it.
Yes.
What made you answer, or what made you interested in becoming the next leader of the Labour Party at this point?
Right. Well, thank you for that question. Now, I think that stems really from a deep desire to serve. When I became a candidate back in 2013 for the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, I quoted Gandhi, where he said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in service to others." And that is so true. And so I have this deep desire to serve. I can remember as a little boy having dreams about how I can make a difference in the lives of people in St. Kitts and Nevis. And that fueled, for instance, my will to contribute in some way. At that time, I used calypso, for instance. And all of those dreams and aspirations that I had, I sought to put it in song. So if you listen to my collection of music, you would see that from a very long time ago, from the age of 6, from the age of 10, I have been penning what I would like to see my St. Kitts and Nevis looking like. And so when the opportunity came to answer the call for candidacy, I thought it was an excellent opportunity to now put what was on paper and in song in reality. And now a new opportunity has opened up, because our dear comrade leader, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, is no longer contesting for the leadership of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. And I think it is important for us to acknowledge the tremendous service that he has given to not only the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party as its leader for the last 32 years, but also as an outstanding Prime Minister for St. Kitts and Nevis for 20 years. And so the opportunity is now where he has done his service and has created an opportunity for new leadership to emerge. And so there is now a new call. And out of my, for instance, constituency, they have been very vocal over the years that they wish for me to answer that call whenever that day would come. And it has come now. And so I've consulted with my God, I've consulted with my family, I've consulted with my loved ones, I've consulted with the constituents and the comrades. I've consulted a broad range of persons, and I have come to the conclusion that it is now time to answer that call, to bring those dreams that I had as a little boy, or those dreams I have when I travel around the world and see something that we don't yet have in St. Kitts, for this opportunity to now be in a position to make those things a reality.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Maynard. You mentioned you consulted with your constituents and you consulted with delegates. What has been the response from the delegates, from the community, both good and bad, so far?
Well, the response has been massive. Because, first of all, I have been nominated by the most constituencies. And so all across the country, from branch to branch, there has been a tremendous amount of support that has come my way. As I spoke about my constituency, they have been front and foremost in full support behind this candidacy. They have time and time again pushed me that I must ready myself for this occasion. And some years ago, when I was nominated for deputy leader, and I withdrew on the account of ensuring that we moved together forward as one, they gave me some heat and said, no, we want you to continue. And we want you to take the next step whenever it becomes available. And I see this replicated across the country. In fact, what has surprised me in this journey is the outreach from persons who I probably would have thought were not interested in supporting me in this particular role. And so it is quite heartening to hear from delegates from all across the country to say, you know, we have looked at you over the past 8 years or so. We have looked at you before that, and we think that you can do the job. So the response has been overwhelming. And as I said, of all the candidates in the race, I was able to get the most nominations from the constituencies, or the most constituencies nominated me.
And are you surprised by that response?
I'm not surprised at all, you know, because I think that people generally can see my heart, and they can see that I am genuine about my service. I don't have on pretenders. I'm not putting on a show. They knew me before politics. They knew what I was made of. They know what I stand for. And so it's not a surprise to me that persons would have reached out and said they are going to give me their support. And so yes, I'm very grateful for that type of outreach and that type of support that I see coming forward.
And in a previous interview you did with Carib Update, you mentioned about your deeply ingrained roots within the Labour Party. And do you think the response that you mentioned earlier about getting the most votes from the constituents plays a part in that?
Well, naturally, because I am running to be the leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. So one would think that delegates and supporters would feel comfortable knowing that the person that they can choose or is interested in choosing is deeply rooted in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. There are no questions about that. This stems from my grandfather, who was front and center in the political movement of Labour at that time, right up to now, me becoming a candidate, being involved in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party from a little boy. I remember being on the streets in protest marches that we would have. I don't want to call them pom-pom boys, but they were boys along with the pom-pom girls. And I was there, even at that time. And just recently at an event we had for constituency number 1, a stalwart comrade reminded me that myself and her daughter used to be at every public meeting in the 90s. And in fact, she told me she had her daughter set up for me, but it didn't go that way. So we had a laugh about that. But I am ingrained in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. But also what's important, although I have been ingrained in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, from then, people across the country have been able to see that my intentions go beyond serving just the party of which I am a part. That was clearly evident in the massive support that I would have received, for instance, in the Calypso art form. I had every single body across every political spectrum, race and creed supporting me. Just, I think, yesterday, a young woman told me that, she was never interested in Calypso, but my words and my music and the effort and the passion that I placed in the art form drew her to Calypso. And it is that same zest, it is that same compassion, the same passion, the same drive is what I will take into the leadership of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party.
And as you mentioned, your Calypso, I believe your Calypso career is one of the reasons or one of the ways that you are set apart from the other candidates. What else sets you apart from the candidates?
Well, we spoke about being deeply rooted in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, of course. But I think also what separates me is that I am capable and well-rounded. I've experienced victory, I've experienced loss. I've been in academia and intellect, but I can relate to the ordinary plights of people. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a family man, I'm a community activist, I'm involved in the sports. Added to that, I believe that I have sound decision making. People ought to look at beyond the veil of politics and look at what type of decisions that person makes. What have they chosen to do and how have they excelled in the ventures that they took part in. So these are some of the things that I think the delegates would look at to see that not only am I well-rounded or rooted in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, I am capable and well-rounded. I am also full of energy and vigor, obviously the youngest of those who are going up. And of course, if we want to look at the political experience, I would be the one who has the most experience, for instance, in Parliament at this stage, having served already 5 years. So those would be some of the key differences that I think would differentiate the candidates.
And with all that being said, what would you rate your confidence level as it pertains to winning?
Well, I'm very confident, mainly because of the support that has come forward from the delegates. and the constituencies that are geared to supporting me. But that confidence is not by itself. Faith without works is dead, so you have to go out and do the work. And so we have to, and I will continue, to meet with the delegates, to impress upon them some of the things that I would love to see for the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, and to impress upon them that in this time, I am the capable and most suited choice.
And as you mentioned previously, you have suffered loss as a representative for the Labour Party. What will you do to ensure, as the party leader, what will you do to ensure the party is successful in the next general election?
Right. Well, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party has already embarked upon a number of things to ensure that we are ready and able to win the next general elections. After both the 2015 and the 2020 elections, we embarked upon a project of self-evaluation. We spoke to our delegates, our constituents, our comrades. We even brought in professionals to do an analysis of us. And over those years, and in particular since the 2020 elections, we have sought to restructure the party in a way that affords us an opportunity to do much better at the polls. And so we have identified what our needs are. We have identified what our resources or what resources are required. And we are now in that process of installing that new structure. Come November 28, we would have an election for the first time to elect 2 deputy leaders, for instance, because we believe that it is important to spread the political work of the political leader, not just to 1 deputy, but to 2, such that you can have a deputy concentrate on specific areas. We have already gone and instituted in May 3 vice chair positions, such that at the administrative level of the party, we not only have a chairman, but we have 3 vice chairs with specific roles, so that nothing in our orbit of political work is left out. And we have made some other structural changes. So those things are already in play. And as Congress Maynard, for instance, having a background in professional work, professional environment, I am well aware, let me just put this on mute, I am well aware of how to make a structure work. That is something, obviously, you get when you're in large regional institutions. You understand how to effectuate structural changes. And so I think I bring that type of experience as well, having been in charge of a large operation in a country, for instance, added to the political experience that I have garnered being under one of the most astute political leaders in the Commonwealth, Dr. Denzel Llewellyn Douglas. So those things are already in train, but with my experience and with my tutelage coming from our comrade leader, I am well positioned to be able to make those things happen. Added to that, we now will have also a united team that will now be building on the past successes of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. We will be presenting a new image because you will have new leadership, both at the leader position and the deputy leader position. And I believe that the country is looking forward to that. What Timothy Harris and so on represent is the old guard of politics. What the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party now represents with a new leader like Congress Maynard is the new vision of moving the country forward. And so we are well positioned based on the work that we have done, and also well positioned because of the incompetence and uncaringness of this government to take the electorate with us to move St. Kitts and Nevis to the next level.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Congress Maynard. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Mr. Maynard to answer some more questions about his candidacy to become the next leader for the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. Stay tuned.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on WINFM 98.9. I'm your host for this afternoon's segment of Inside the News, Kevon Brown, and we are joined with Conris Maynard, past representative for St. Christopher III and a candidate for the upcoming conference for the next leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. Let's get right back into it, Maynard.
Yes.
Some people argue that, and it's a very, it's an interesting point to be brought up, that because you aren't currently a member of parliament, that for some reason it disqualifies you to be the next leader. What is your response to such a statement?
Well, there is no prerequisite for you to be in parliament, for you to be a political leader. Many have already discussed all of the different examples of that. So it is not a prerequisite. What is important, though, is that from where I sit, I already have the experience of being in Parliament. And as I mentioned earlier, I would be, at present, the most experienced parliamentarian of the three who are going forward. So that experience is already there and already cemented. So now it is about measuring all of the other attributes of the candidates, their capacities, their strengths, their connection to the party, their connection to the people, and how they can appeal to the entire nation. So there is no prerequisite for that. We have seen many great leaders who have come on the scene across the whole world, who did not start with a political office. But I am happy that I do have the position of having that experience before and being able to understand what it is like to win, and appreciating learning from not winning as well.
Do you think there might be a downfall for having experience? Because sometimes with experience you can fall into old habits.
Well, no, because I am still extraordinarily young, and the experience is not rotted, it's growing. And politics is a continuous learning curve. And what this has afforded me, the experiences that I've had in and outside of Parliament, I think have adequately positioned me to understand what it takes and has strengthened me to where I need to go. So I don't see it as a liability at all. I once heard of a saying of this guy who was working in a job for 20 years and a guy who was working there for 2 years. And the guy who was working there for 2 years tried something new, and the one who was there for 20 years had a problem with it. And he said, I have more experience than you. All right? That is the one who was there for 2 years. But the one said, who was there for 2 years, said, I might have 2 years experience as a young man, but you have 21-year experiences. And so how I view my experience is that I have not been repeating what it is I may have learned in a single year, but I have continued to grow and learn, look at where I have fallen short, listen more, understand where you went wrong, do things a little different, consult, bring people within your sphere who they don't necessarily think like you, agitators who can make you think outside of the box. And so I think that the experience I have garnered thus far is an adequate preparer of me for the significant position of being the leader of a 90-year-old party.
And for the delegates who may be on the fence in giving you their support, what 3 things you would say to them to get them geared towards you?
Well, we spoke about some already, which is that, firmly rooted within the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. So they must have faith in knowing they are selecting a Labour man, right? I did not become a Labour to then become a candidate. I became a candidate because I am a Labour, right? I also spoke about being capable and well-rounded. All of the things I spoke about, and added to that, for instance, my involvement in church, in Boys Brigade, you name it, debating at the college level, debating in our National Youth Parliament, representing St. Kitts on CARICOM youth forums, just this well-rounded aspect of a young person. But added to that, those who are on the fence, they must also look at what it is Congress will bring as well. One of the key things, accomplishments that will happen under a Congressman leadership is obviously the establishment and the building of a national party headquarters. Now, this is not just something I am saying. In my own constituency, when I became the candidate, I realized the importance of having a home that the constituents can feel that they have somewhere to go. And so I took the opportunity to establish what is a pinnacle, a constituency office around the country. So my intent now is to replicate that across all the constituencies, because I have done it before. I understand how to do it. I see what it does to the comrades, bringing them together, but also to take it to the national level now and ensure that we have a headquarters in being the oldest party. Also, I spoke about the importance of bringing the structure to bear that we have worked on. And given my experiences, I think that I'm going to be able to enforce that structure. Also, people must know that there is a deep empathy, a deep caring to see people move from one place to the next. Labour has afforded that, where a poor boy who had a grandfather or father in the sugar industry is able to go to school for free, and then created opportunities that persons can then go off to university and come back and make something better for their children so that they did not have to go into the sugar fields. People must know that Congress Maynard understands what it means to come from a poor family that had nothing, use opportunity to then make every generation thereafter better. And so when I see my comrades and the people of this country in one particular position in life, my goal and my dream is how can we move them from that position to the next? How can I ensure that the next generation will be better than the present one? And so I think people must have, or the comrades and delegates must have the confidence to know that that is a key focus of mine. Moving, creating opportunities to move people from where they are to somewhere better, because I have been grateful to have that experience of moving from, you know, my father was in a family of 13 children, 4 died young. He tells me all the stories about how he had to sleep on trash beds, you know, what was for him the big thing at Christmas time is what we take for granted now every day. But the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party afforded the opportunity for people to move from one state to the next, and that is what we want to continue.
All right. And as you mentioned, a next gen, and for the radio listeners, the viewing audience, I'm sure you could see he's very much wearing a Labour shirt that has next generation Labour on it.
Yes.
But as you speak about next generation, what do you envision a next generation of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party to look like?
Well, it's going to look like myself, right? If I'm the leader. But a next generation is going to encapsulate all that we have already worked for, right? And if you look at the persons who have become interested in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, it's across all boards. I'm talking about people who just a few years ago were supporting other political parties, but have now come to the realization that the bedrock on which we stand for the good that we can do as a party is what they want to line up with. So we are going to be building on our successes, but we are going to look new. We are going to look fresh. We are going to look all-inclusive, because that is what we're about. We're not about separating classes. We are about serving all people wherever they are. So whether you're working class, whether you're in the middle class, or whether you're in the upper class, all are welcomed. And so a new image or next gen of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party will look all-inclusive. You will be able to see somebody like you who supports the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party to give you the confidence that, you know what, it is time for us to move away from the politics of convenience that they're now seeing with the unity coalition, if it still is that, because it's simply just made up to survive on lies and so on, to now realizing you have a group of persons, an organization who has a singular mission in creating the next set of revolutions in St. Kitts and Nevis, the next set of progress in St. Kitts and Nevis. So I think the electorate has a lot to look forward with the energy that we have, with the ingenuity that we have, with the brilliant ideas and creativity that we have across the entire party. I mean, when we look at our young senator in the parliament, I keep hearing commendable words about our senator. And she was just one of about 20-something who were interested in the post. That tells you that there is a yearning and a will to be a part of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. And new leadership under Congress Maynard will take advantage of that.
All right. And as you've outlined the positives of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, I think, in my own personal opinion, that a good leader also recognizes some deficits or some challenges. What do you think are some of the challenges the party is experiencing, and how would you navigate them as the next leader?
Right. So one of the challenges that, has plagued us for some time is our ability to communicate what we are doing, what we have done, and what we are going to do. We have an excellent story. We have an excellent message. We have an excellent track record. But sometimes it is lost in the communication. And people who don't have such a record, they have to do a lot of things to distract from what it is we have done. So one of the things that is going to be critical is improving the way we communicate with the electorate and with the whole country, whether it is through social media, whether it is through print media, whether it is about showing up on the doorsteps of every household to spread our message because we are proud of it, and it is something that can win us an election. We have the track record. We're not just talking. We have done it before. We have excelled. We have moved the country forward, and we are certainly in a position to do that again. So I would say that would be one of the key things that we would have to work on, communicate our message, because if that happens, we will be unstoppable.
Okay. Now, having three candidates vying for leadership, has that ever happened before in the Labour Party?
No, not as far as I know that there were three at the same time. In fact, in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, there has never been a final contest of leadership. It always, in the end, the process is people will get nominated. You can have discussions. You can say, hey, I am bringing 5 constituencies. You have 3. Let's talk, because we want to keep the party together. So over its 90-year history, we have always reached to a point of consensus as to how we are going to move forward. So if we continue, as we are with 3, we are in uncharted waters. However, we are confident that we have the structure and the maturity to be able to deal with this. And on my part, for instance, I am committed to ensuring that this is going to be a smooth transition into new leadership. And I also sense that deep commitment from our present comrade leader, who is intent on making sure that this process goes as seamless as possible, despite the detractors that exist. People want to cause confusion, because if we are successful at this, the Unity Coalition knows that they have a tremendously steep hill to climb that is going to be a slippery slope for them. And so we are confident that we are going to try our best to deal with this new situation, but we really think that we can.
And as you mentioned, in the past, normally candidates would come together and essentially have a conversation. Do you think that a conversation is likely between any of the 3 candidates?
Well, we're still early in the process, of course, and each of us are going to go full throttle, I'm sure, towards that place. But paramount to us is that whatever we decide to do, we are committed to, at the end of the day, if votes have to be counted, when they are counted, we are going to rally our troops behind our new elected leader. We are confident of that, and that is something we, and I in particular, will certainly push for. So anything can happen, but we're going to push forward. And I believe that in any scenario, though, that a congressman and leadership of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party will be able to augur the troops around that new leadership and become, as I said earlier, and as I sang, an unstoppable force. Once we get and when we get this right, we will be leading this country when elections are called again.
So it's safe to say, despite whatever may happen, you are going to see this all the way through.
Absolutely, absolutely. Full throttle.
All right. But as you mentioned, there have been some sayings, some whisperings about the three candidates, and you're kind of in uncharted waters, as you said, that it may breed a bit of divisiveness within the party. Do you believe that to be true?
Well, obviously, whenever you have competition, you will always have persons who pick a side, and that is fine. That is part of the democratic process. But I will urge my comrades, as I do my own supporters, that we are still one family. We are still one St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, and it makes no sense to participate in any efforts to tear down any of our colleagues. And so I urge anyone who supports me or supports anyone of us in this race, do not fall victim to buy into what the other side would want to see us do and tear down each other. It will not get us anywhere. And so I'm going to lead by example on that and show that we are doing this for the best interest of not only the party, but the country, and that we must come along together in this process. Yes, we're going to choose someone. Yes, we are going to have our favorites. Yes, we are going to think that one is better than one. But do not get to the point where privately or otherwise you are involved in anything that will belittle or demean or tear or smudge the character of any of the colleagues that are in this race. So that is a strong encouragement on my part and a strong commitment, which I certainly have.
And as you mentioned, sometimes even within parties, divisiveness, whenever there's a competition, is expected. And I think that's one of my favorite things about democracy, actually, that you could support the same party, you could be a member or delegate of the same party, and yet have different views, different ideas, different ideologies, and still remain one. So I when people were saying that it would murky the waters, I would make it divisive, it would pull the party apart. It made me think that maybe people aren't understanding that the democratic process is all about people having a difference of opinion, and sometimes that difference of opinion can bring about the best change. What do you say to that?
Right. So, you know, I agree with you that that is part of the democracy. But what is going to be important is that us as leaders, for instance, in this, we must not only say it, but we must practice it. So I, for instance, can't say here tonight, or sorry, this afternoon, that this is what I believe in, but privately I am doing something different, because that then will further the divisions. We have to say it publicly and mean it. And so I encourage all of my colleagues to go along a path where we are not going to be engaged in tearing down each other. And we will encourage all of our supporters, whomever they are, those who are outspoken on the radio, those who are next to you, to not partake in that type of behavior.
Awesome. Good to know. One of my final questions. Picture it. You've become the leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, and as the leader, you managed to win the next general election and become the Prime Minister of our great federation, St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes.
What is one thing you think the federation needs from its leader to move forward, to take it to the next level?
Well, firstly, I think it is unfair to just have one thing.
You could always add more.
Because there is so much that has to be done. So let us look at multiple things, and maybe we can do more of and none of. So what we need more of trust. Right now, nobody trusts the government. Nobody trusts the Prime Minister. When he speaks, you doubt. He might be saying the truth, but you have no clue because nobody trusts. So we need more trust, right? We need more caring. We need a government that is actually doing things because it cares about the people. We need more involvement, meaning it is not just one side or one set of people who have all the answers. We have to be inclusive, right? There must be more transparency. So people must be confident that their elected officials and the government are working on their behalf and not trying to scam them and the treasury of money for their personal gain. So we ought to be more transparent. We must know how our leaders are making their money, what they are doing, and ensure that it is not ripping off the country. So more transparency. And then maybe we could have none of the corruption that we see happening in this country. Where ministers of government who just before they were in office could barely afford to pay for things, and now they almost own half of St. Kitts. We need none of the corruption that is directing taxpayers' monies to friends and families. We need none of the divisiveness that this government continues to practice. I recall when this government went into office in 2015, they lined up supporters of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party along the halls of government headquarters. They went on the radio or attacked people because they were on the radio, saying, you shouldn't listen to them on the radio. They practice division, so we want none of division. We want none of the nepotism. That a prime minister can have members of his family across every aspect of St. Kitts and Nevis's political life, right? We want none of the complete abuse of, for instance, our electoral processes, our electoral system, such that they can abuse it to make themselves more favorable to win. So for me, it's a more of and none of that the people can look forward under the leadership of Congress Maynard. And it's not just about talk, because people know my character. They can trust what I say. I mean what I say. I am very principled, maybe sometimes to a fault, because I believe that leadership, for instance, is not something to be glorified about, but rather taken as a serious responsibility. I give the story all the time of the story of the Speaker of the House that someone relayed to me. The tradition is that the Prime Minister, I believe, and the Leader of the Opposition would push the Speaker up the halls of Parliament to his seat in the chair, and he would try to resist it. Well, why is he resisting going in the chair of the Speaker? It is because I am told, maybe in the old days, if he were to mess up or not carry out the monarch's or the crown's wishes, it would be off with his head. And so you took the position with a level of reluctance. That's how I view leadership, that it is such a monumental responsibility that I'm not going there to sit on a chair because it looks pretty or to have fame or the spotlight on you, but to understand the responsibility that you have so that you could keep that in your mind, that you're there to serve the people, not yourself. Because if you don't, it is off with your head. And so that is how I view leadership. It is a humongous responsibility that is humbling and that I take seriously, because you're really not promoting yourself. You're actually sacrificing yourself for the welfare of others.
And as you mentioned, thrones or pretty chairs. To me, some of the best thrones or the best pretty chairs are the ones that are uncomfortable for the leader as they're there waiting, because it gently reminds them that, hey, you're there in service of people. You're not there to be comfortable.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to touch on accountability, because it's one of the favorite buzzwords of politicians. And I was just wondering, how do you envision yourself being accountable, or how will you make yourself actively accountable for the things that you say if you become the leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party and possibly become the next Prime Minister?
Right, so you're referring to accountability of the promises made or your time in office?
Promises made and time in office, actually.
Right. Okay, well, let's start with time in office in terms of accountability. One of the most important things to do is to activate a simple thing like the Integrity in Public Life legislation. Not that I don't understand why this government has not chosen to do that, but that has to be critical for people to have trust in you. Why are you afraid to make yourself accountable? Such that persons can check whether or not you are abiding by the ethics that you have sworn to abide by. So it will be important for us to activate that immediately. Within the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, we have already instituted our own code of ethical conduct, and all candidates who come on board must sign on to that. And our executive now has the ability to sanction or discipline persons who fall outside of what our ethical standards are. So those are things we have already done. Now, in terms of politics, there's one basic test of accountability: the next election, right? And if you are not able to meet the promises that you have made in a timely manner, as the people would have voted for you, then they will hold you accountable, right? And that is what I love about the electorate, is that they have the opportunity in a democracy like ours to say, yes, you have done a good job, given, I must put an asterisk here, that the circumstances around that election are fair. Because some might want to argue, well, you have gotten, or the party has gotten rejected. For instance, in the last general elections, it was an unusual elections where you had a government that utilized a state of emergency to position themselves in a best light or a better light compared to the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. While the government could break all the rules that they had set, we were restricted, as I said somewhere, in a room with 25 persons. We couldn't meet persons. We couldn't talk about our message. We couldn't campaign as the labor heavy roller would usually campaign. So under normal and fair and free elections, the electorate is always right based on the information that they have at the time.
All right, thank you very much for that answer, Mr. Maynard. We're going to take a short break before we come back to wrap up. You're listening to WINNFM 98.9 Inside the News with Conress Maynard, past rep of St. Christopher III and one of the three candidates vying for the title of leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. Stay tuned.
People make the world go
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And welcome back to Inside the News here on WINNFM 98.9. I just want to take this time out to thank our sponsor, Cara Brewery, for always being a loyal sponsor here on WINNFM 98.9. Again, I'm joined with Chris Maynard, a past representative for St. Christopher 3 and one of the three vying for the title leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. The other two candidates, Dr. Terence Drew, chairman of the party, and the Honorable Dr. Jeffrey Hanley. The conference is on the 20th of November, so it is just about 3 weeks out, where we will have a historic situation, having the Dr. Denzil Douglas, the Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, exiting as leader of the party, and a new party member coming in. Conrad, I just want you to finish out this interview with your final pitch. What can people expect from you as the leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party? What final words do you want to leave the listening audience on?
Right. Well, thank you very much, Kevon, for having me, and also thank you to WINNFM for affording me this opportunity. We've said a lot already, but I think what persons should walk away with is a sense of hope. A sense of hope that things are going to get better. There's a lot of despair in the country at the moment with how things are going. Persons are uncertain where they will get their next meal from. I know people who haven't worked since 2020 March, many persons. They have no idea what's happening. I was speaking to a young man in my constituency, and he said at nights, under his feet, they're burning him, and there's no fire. There's a lot of tingling because he doesn't know what he's going to do. He had a bus service and he had another job, but because of the restrictions during the pandemic, the bus service could not continue. His wife also was not working for a lot, and he said he lay down in his bed and he felt tingling in the bottom of his feet. And so what I want to say to persons like him and others, comrades, and my fellow countrymen, is that there is hope. The St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, through a leader like Conrad Maynard, is going to offer new opportunities. Is going to be focused on reinvigorating our economy. I mean, if you look at our manifesto from 2020, we had outlined a number of key initiatives that we will do. I won't go into them now. But in a broad sense, there is a lot for us to do. And I am committed, as if I get the distinct and humbling honor to lead this party, that when we are able to win the next general elections, you can look forward to a government that is intent and whose sole focus is to make things better for you, whether it is in respect of our economy, through revitalizing and reimagining how we do tourism, whether it is bringing our healthcare system from absolute disrepair We have a non-existent Minister of Health who has failed and in hiding, who has not performed and who has failed and exposed severe incompetencies. We have on our team what is necessary to revamp our healthcare system. We have on our team what is necessary or what is needed to revamp our education system. We have done it before in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, where we made sure that education was accessible to all. But now we have to reimagine that, re-engineer it to deal with what is the new world around us. It is not just about what is in the book, but we have to appeal to the skill sets that people have with their hands and so on. Within a new Congress Maynard-led Labour Party government, you must expect that we will blow off into space when it comes to entertainment. Because naturally, I have the experience, I've been there, I've traveled the world to entertain, I've reached, far places I would not have imagined to do that. And when I see so much talent around St. Kitts and Nevis with respect to entertainment in all areas, not just music, but all areas that are promoters and, all of these things, they are crying out, especially coming out of this pandemic. And it will take the experience that we have in this field to make that a key issue and a key plus for persons who are involved in entertainment. When we look at sports, one of the things that is very critical is that sports is an avenue to success and to earning wealth. And not only that, but also exposing our great country. And so what the delegates must see when they make a decision to vote is to see that Congressman Maynard has the aptitude and the capacity to handle all of these things with a calm demeanor, with a decisive attitude, making key decisions, not being afraid, not being able to be cowed, not being able to be coddled or swayed to go against what is the core of the philosophy of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party for the good that we can do. The delegates can be rest assured that the promises that are made, Congress Maynard will do everything to make these things a reality. Just look at my life, just look at what I have accomplished, look at my successes, look at where I have fallen short, and how I have always been able to come back stronger and perform even better than the year before. And so they must know that they have a fighter. They must know that they have someone who is caring. They must know that they have someone who understands what it means to have a close family connection. They must understand that as an engineer, for instance, I am able to identify problems and then create solutions for them. As a professional, I am able to manage and control multiple things that are going on at the same time. As someone who has done well in academia, I can understand what is before me at every level of our country, whether it is in our parliament, whether it is in our region, whether it is at the international level. I have been afforded the opportunity to be front and center, of course, in Parliament. I have represented the Parliament at the UN discussions in the region. I have been involved, for instance, with our great comrade leader in multitudes of meetings with different stakeholders in our country and abroad. And so what you're getting is a well-rounded, firmly rooted comrade who will pull all of our hands together, pull all of our strengths together. Whether you sing alto, as I said, or whether you sing soprano, or whether you do bass or tenor, bring you together in one song. I've done it all my life. I certainly can do it now. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to do this on behalf of my comrades, on behalf of my constituents, and on behalf of my country. And we can do this together. Constituency number 3 is very proud that they can have someone who they believe is ready and able to take on this challenge. Remember, Constituency 3 has been a loyal supporter of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, second only to Constituency number 6, where the current leader comes from. And we believe that we have all that is necessary, the resources, the base, the fire, the will, the want, to be able to now not only lead Constituency number 3, but lead all the constituencies of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party and lead the country that I love so much of St. Kitts and Nevis. I am ready to take the oath. I am ready to stand with the people of this country and make us once again the envy of the Caribbean, the envy of the world, and finally quoting another song as I did earlier, making us an unstoppable force. So I want to thank you guys once again for giving me this opportunity, and I look forward for other opportunities that I can speak more about what I can offer on behalf of the delegates of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party and the citizens of this great country. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Maynard, for joining us this afternoon on Inside the News. It was a pleasure having you. There you have it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Conress Maynard, one of the 3 vying for the title of the leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, who will be celebrating a historic 90 years of existence come next year. So many things to celebrate, many changes are coming, and we look forward to seeing what happens next. Thank you so much for tuning into Inside the News. I was Kevon Brown, and you were listening to Inside the News on 98.9 WIN FM. Stay tuned for more.